as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book.
See, now Michael, who is the warring angel, he gonna stand up, and it's gonna be time for God to start delivering his people. This show you, brothers and sisters, we are all the way down at the end. Because notice at verse 1, it said at that time, Michael gonna stand up, and then it said, and there shall be a time of trouble. This is talking about the same thing we read in Matthew 24, verse 21, of the Great Tribulation. He said it's going to be great tribulation such as it never was or ever will be again. How many times can you have like that? Just one. It can only be one time like it's never been before or will ever be again. Right. It can only be one terrible time like that. So this let me know this got to be talking about the same time, right? He said, read that part again. He said, there shall be a time of trouble such as what?
Such as was never since there was a nation, even to that same time.
He said, it's going to be so much trouble you ain't seen it since it was a nation. Even up to that time, it have not been this much trouble in the world. That's some trouble, isn't it?
That's right.
That is the Great Tribulation. And that's when the Lord... We at the time now, the Lord getting ready to start delivering his people. But go ahead, verse 2.
And many of them that are asleep in the dust of the earth shall awake.
Now he took you all the way down to the end, brother and sister, to even to the resurrection, to beyond tribulation. But verse 1 was that tribulation, wasn't it? A time of trouble. But now that shows you how the Lord will just keep going because he see the whole picture. He just run all the way down to the end. He said, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. So that lets you know we at the end of the world, we got the resurrection now, what was talking about in Thessalonians, right? This ain't something that happened in the past, in Antiochus days. This is something happening in the future. Because we at the resurrection now. Many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Go ahead.
Some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt.
See, that all the way down to the second resurrection, because nobody is going to awake to shame and everlasting contempt at the second coming of Jesus and the first resurrection. So he went down way over 1,000 years from the second coming of Jesus. Long way down. That shows you how God will keep talking. But now, skip down to verse 7 and go ahead because we want to identify this time, this great tribulation, because we want to make sure you see that it is something worthy to escape from, but it's just not by way of a rapture. Verse 7, go ahead.
And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and sware by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished.
See, now notice, Daniel wanted to know exactly what this was about. And finally, the Lord had to let Daniel know it's not for you to understand all of this. Because the Lord didn't show Daniel this for him to see it, so for him to know, because he knew Daniel wouldn't be living. But he showed it so it can be written down for us, brothers and sisters. Because Daniel ain't came close to our time. But yet he saw all the stuff that's happening in our time. So he said, look, I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and swear by him to live forever, ever, that it shall be for a time and times and a half. See, that's the limit. That's the time span of great tribulation all over the Bible. Some people say 7 years. From one verse, they messed that up. It's not 7-year tribulation. That's right. Nowhere in the Bible. The great tribulation, the time of trouble like it's never been, is going to be 3.5 years. That's what verse 7 means. A time is 1 year. And you add it to times plural, which is 2 years. 1 plus 2 is what? 3. 3. And he said, and a half, that's a half a time. That's a half a year. 3.5 years. And we're going to keep seeing that. Just make a note of that. And notice, it said, when he shall accomplish to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be fulfilled, finished. So the holy people that's existing at this time, they're going to be going through it, brothers and sisters, because this man is totally unholy. But go ahead and read verse 8 and keep going.
And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things?
Daniel wanted to know, but it wasn't for him to know. The Lord finally said, Daniel, don't worry about it. He's going to tell you. Go ahead.
And he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the end of time. To the time of the end.
Oh, sealed till when?
The time of the end.
The time of the end. That's what Daniel talking about, right? All this is taking us to the time of the end. You can forget about Antiochus Epiphanes. He ain't coming close to this. He really barely worthy to even be mentioned with this guy and what this guy going to do in the end. But since he did some similar stuff back in the day, hey, he's comparable. But really on a lightweight scale. But go ahead.
Many shall be purified and made white and tried. But the wicked shall do wickedly.
Go ahead.
And none of the wicked shall understand. But the wise shall understand.
See, we supposed to be wise and understand this, brothers and sisters. We're not supposed to just turn a blind eye and say, I don't need to know because of the rapture, which is false. We supposed to understand this. Go ahead.
And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away.
See, the daily sacrifice got to be taken away, which means it got to be started. And what is the daily sacrifice? That's when the people offer up a lamb in the morning and a lamb in the evening every day. And we know they're going to start doing that in Jerusalem. They're going to actually start the daily sacrifice where they do that. They don't even have to have a temple to do that. All they need is an altar to do that. But they got to claim that land over there by the dome of the rock for them to be able to do it. And they probably going to be building a temple, but they're going to start sacrificing animals. And the abomination going to stop them. See, Jesus knew what he was talking about when he said, when you see the abomination of desolation stand in the holy place.